Welcome back, Patriots, for another episode of the Bald Brad Show. It's so weird that you guys only see a floating head. I try to make it so most of my figures in frame, but I blame the lens that I have. But it's good to see you guys in the chat. Hans, Dave, Shayla, it's good to see you. Steve, Nina, Lulu, Candy, Jeff, Miss Mom, Danielle, it's good to see all of you joining the Bald Brad Show this fine Thursday morning. Holy Lordy, we've almost made it through another week. Now, things were popping off yesterday. Matter of fact, I didn't even have this queued up because wasn't planning on talking about it. But there was a clip that went viral yesterday of Donald Trump. Now, this is not our lead story, but the media are losing their mind over this. I mean, the Democrats, the media, the progressives, over this one clip. And I just want to point out, they spent 4 years complaining. We spent 4 years complaining about Joe Biden. They were silent for 4 years. But here we go. Here is Donald Trump talking to the president of Liberia. And let's hear what he has to say.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where?
Yes, sir.
In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's such good English.
So Donald Trump just acknowledged his English. And they're going out of their minds. Donald Trump asked the president of Liberia, such good English, where did you learn to speak so beautifully? The official language of Liberia is English. So let's just give them the benefit of the doubt as of right now. Let's just say that Donald Trump did not know that. Personally, I didn't know that either. I didn't know Liberia. Who even thinks about Liberia? When was the last time Liberia even crossed your mind? I didn't know that. And what you see on social media or from other people is that they always hold everybody else to higher standards than themselves. So I'm going to get, let's just at least see the argument really quick. Concede the argument. I don't care whether he did or didn't. The guy was being hospitable, acknowledging how well spoken a foreign president is or was. The guy's being nice and well-mannered. He's being polite, bringing something up, going, wow, you're really well-spoken. That's great. And people are, oh, he's racist because it's a black guy. He didn't think a black guy would be well-educated from Africa. Like, you don't, first of all, you don't know if Trump knew that he spoke English or not. You have no idea. Nobody knows other than Trump. So you're assuming. And then you don't know whether Trump thought that he was well-educated or wasn't well-educated. You have no idea. You're just literally assuming everything. Now, the one thing I'm not assuming anything. I just literally said, wow, he complimented the guy on his English, which is literally what's in the clip. Now, the same people that are coming out hounding Donald Trump are the same people that were quiet for 4 years plus about Joey. And if you look at any of their social media, because I did a video on it yesterday, if you look at any of their social media, there's not a peep. When I say not even a word about Joe Biden on their social media, about him fumbling through his words, fighting with this teleprompter, falling up a flight of stairs numerous amounts of times, looking for dead people in the crowd, taking photos with people at events that were never there in the first place, full on having conversations with passed on leaders of foreign countries that have been gone for 40 years. This guy got lost. He couldn't find his way to the Oval Office. He thought he was running for senator when he was running for president. He didn't know his name. He didn't know his wife's name. He didn't know his general's name. He thought Kamala Harris was president. And I'm talking all that stuff that you could pull from Joe Biden for 4 years. Not a peep from these people. And then their minds are blown When we are defending Donald Trump here, their words mean nothing to me. Nothing. They could say anything they want, and it's going to go through one ear, out the other, because their words are dog doo-doo. Well, with that being said, again, good morning. Hopefully you're able to find the show okay. Our lead story of the day is the New York City poll. It's pretty shocking for some, not shocking to me. Mamdani surges to 10-point lead in New York City mayoral race. Adams craters to 4th place, folks. This is crazy. It's crazy. It's not shocking, but it's crazy. This is what happens when you have the majority of your population having their head up there, you know what. And it's just the majority of the population, because these polls usually are pretty small, but it's usually supposed to be pretty accurate if you've done it right. A new poll shows Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani holding a commanding 10-point lead in New York City's mayoral race this week, with incumbent Mayor Eric Adams trailing in 4th place. The Slingshot Strategies poll, conducted between July 2nd and July 6th, showed Socialist Mamdani capturing 35% of registered voters, with former Governor Andrew Cuomo at 25%, Curtis Sliwa at 14%, and incumbent Mayor Eric Adams trailing at 11%. That's crazy. Adam faces an uphill battle with a dismissal 28 approval rating and 62% disapproval rating. By contrast, Mamdani enjoys a net favorable rating of +4, 40% favorable versus 36% unfavorable, while even the scandal-plagued Andrew Cuomo outperforms Adams. Well, Adams was a terrible mayor. We gave that guy so much crap during the last administration on how he was kicking out homeless veterans out of hotel rooms. He was putting in refugees, illegal immigrants just everywhere, spending billions of dollars, which, by the way, New York City doesn't have. I always use this as an example. New York City's so far behind everybody else that they were excited to get trash cans last year. So if anybody's ever been to New York City, they just threw their trash out still on the street. So when you're walking down the street, you will see 7 foot, 6 foot high, just mounds of trash bags, black trash bags all over the street, because they didn't have like a trash bin. I don't want to say pickup system, because they came around and picked up the trash, but they were excited like last year, the year before, to get trash cans in 2023, 2024. It's insane. It's almost as if every Democrat ran area is just a dumpster fire. But then it's crazy. There's actual jokes about people coming to Orange County, California from LA County, and their minds are blown with how clean it is, how safe it is. There's no graffiti on the freeways. I'm not saying you won't see it, but it's pretty sparse. There isn't necessarily trash everywhere. Again, it depends where you're at, but mostly it's just a lot cleaner. It's safer. It's better. It's not stinky. We don't just shit and sleep in our same bed. It's astonishing the drastic difference between Democrat ran and Republican ran. And it's like almost everywhere you look. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're not going to find an outlier here or there. I'm not saying you're not going to find a Republican area that's dilapidated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the holistic viewpoint, when you're looking at all the data, what you're going to see is the majority of Republican areas look pretty good. And how do I know that? Because even Democrats are fleeing to Republican areas, red areas. There's a reason why people are leaving California and going to red states, red cities, red localities. When I was on that cruise, I made the mistake, and I think I might have shared this story. I made the mistake of asking somebody what they were drinking. It was the departing day, and I'm out there in the pool on the back of the ship. I promise there's a point to this. And one of my goals of this trip was to try to be a little bit more extroverted, be a little bit more polite, meet more people, be outspoken. I've mentioned this before. I'm a mute. I'm a introvert. I'm a quiet guy. I don't like talking to people all that much. I'll sit in the corner and be by myself. I don't mind. So there was this guy, and he had a beer, and it was pretty much down to the bottom. And I said, oh, hey, what are you drinking there? Just trying to be nice. And he goes, oh, I'm having an IPA. I said, oh, I love IPAs. I drink IPAs all the time. I'm a big IPA guy. I like double IPAs as well. And I kid you not, matter of fact, I actually have a jar here. It's kind of like what he was drinking. He goes, hey, would you like some? And I thought he was joking. So I started laughing. I said, no, I'm good. Like, why would you give me your spit-ridden beer that's down at the bottom? Like, ugh. And he goes, no, really, on me. Please have some. And I was like, what? I said, no. And he goes, no, I would love for you to try it. And like, my wife's standing there. So I'm like looking over at her, like, you going to help me here? Are you going to speak up for me and say, I don't know, it's a little weird and gross? So anyways, we get to like where we're from, and he's from like, there's a fly in here. He's from, I think it was like Portland, Oregon, or like Seattle, Washington, or something like that. And he was completely crapping on it, completely crapping on these areas that are dominated by Democrats, dominated by the progressive left. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy has to be a Republican. Like, this guy has to be. It's going through my mind. I didn't mention anything. And then I go, oh, well, are you still located there? He goes, oh, no, we moved. It's like, oh, okay, no way. Where'd you move? Oh, we moved to Florida, which is where we were, departing out of, was Florida. And I said, oh, gotcha. Well, what made you come to Florida? Oh, it's just bad over there. These idiots vote for stupid stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he's going through, and I kid you not, you guys, if I had to put it on my life, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's a Trump supporter. This guy's a Trump supporter. He's ripping leftist policies there, and boom. Turns out the guy's a leftist himself. And I'm just floored at the idea of there's no thought in this guy's brain. I talked to him for like 2.5 hours. I'm not even kidding. Finally, I had to look at him like, yo, dude, I got to go. Cause I'm just like, I can't talk to you anymore. You're too much. 2.5 hours in the pool. And now there was no thought in this individual's head the entire time that maybe it was the way that I voted, the things that I did that contributed to this mess over there. And now that I'm going to bring it over here. Crazy. It's truly mind blowing. And it's a fascinating thing to witness that when you're speaking to somebody, there is no self-awareness. There's no reflection. There's no, oh man, I'm a part of this problem. It's a crazy and wild thing. I reflect a lot. God, this fly's killing. I'm gonna kill you. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get this thing. Hold on. It's right there. I think it's a mosquito. I think I might have gotten it. We might have won. We'll see. I gotta be careful. All righty. I don't want to take the whole place down. Believe it or not, this thing's pretty much duct taped together. I'm MacGyvered the crap out of my studio. All righty. So that's what's going on over there in New York. Mamdani is leading. Now, you think that's crazy. Well, Mamdani's own father said Abraham Lincoln inspired the Holocaust. Yeah, well, let's break this one down. Americans may be shocked, but Zohran Mamdani's radical politics might have come from his father. But the communist upstart's views wouldn't come as a surprise to anyone familiar with his dad. Mamdani, or Mahmoud, wow, geez, look at that name. Mahmoud Mamdani. It's too early for names like that, you guys. It's way too damn early. A professor at Columbia University. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. Now, Columbia University, can we take a pause? Beep, 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 boop, boop. Was the hotbed of controversy recently because this is where all those Hamas supporter protesters were shutting down campuses. And I believe it's also where Karine Jean-Pierre graduated from. Claimed on a panel at the Japper Literature Festival in New York in 2022. This is wild. that Hitler was inspired by Abraham Lincoln, that the anti-Semitic Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws, and that the Nazi political party was shared by the Allies. Now, here's the crazy thing. Not so much Abraham Lincoln, but the Nazi political party were, especially Hitler. Dinesh D'Souza actually wrote an entire book on this. Did look at what Americans were doing to black people and took a page out of it. Now, what do I mean by that? Because I'm being vague. Let me be specific for you. Hitler, and we talked about this in the past, so I'll give you one example. There's many examples. Hitler would look at what the Democrats were doing to blacks and take that and apply it to how he was going to treat the Jews and did treat the Jews. There's certain moments that are transcribed from Hitler in his meetings where he saw what they were doing to black people, meaning they, the Democrat Party, was doing to black people. And he said, whoa, hold on a second. That's actually way too far. That specific engagement was talking about the one drip law, or one drop of blood, whereas if you had any drop of blood in you, you were still deemed to be black. And they were trying to apply it to, well, if you had any drop of Jew in you, you were considered Jewish and you're going to the camps. This is what they do though with history, is they try to paint it as a Republican thing, and they try to reverse it of, well, it's just the North and it's just the South. Now, if Krager's in the chat, if Krager is here, I was in a debate with Andrew Wilson last night from the Crucible on somebody's TikTok last night. So there's a lot of people from the Crucible, and you guys know who that is, Andrew Wilson. And thank God he was backing me up, because what they were trying to do in the argument last night, or the debate that was about America was never great. And my position is America has always been great. And the position was, well, it was our founding documents. It was the ideals that were enshrined in our founding documents that made America great. Whether we lived up to them or not, we will never fully live up to them, but it's always striving to live up to them. And I said, the Democrats are the ones that basically crumbled this whole thing. And she started going on about the fact that, it wasn't Democrats, it was Republicans' fault. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, there was a big switch. And I just started laughing. I was like, well, the big switch wasn't even what you think it is. The big switch didn't happen till later. There was a switch over FDR's time, and then there's a switch during Reagan-Nixon time, depending on when you want to look at it. And then like 3 Democrats were saying that I was wrong. I was like, what? So he came in and backed me up, which I appreciate. Shout out to Andrew Wilson last night. We spent some time with the Crucible, which was dope. And then they booted me from the chat. I didn't even have an opportunity after to step in. They just booted me after that. Completely destroyed their argument. It was GG. It was game over. The discussion centered around the release of his book, Neither Settler Nor Native, The Making and Unmaking of Permanent Minorities, which explores the nature of the nation state and the path to reimagine decolonized future. Mamdani began by saying that America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. Colonialism. It's early. Please give me a break. I was up late last night watching the Crucible. Around the world, he goes on to say that the Adolf Hitler got the idea of the Holocaust from President Abraham Lincoln. Oh boy, here we go. With the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized 2 things. One, that genocide is doable. It is possible to do genocide. That's what Hitler realized. Second thing Hitler realized is that you don't have to have a common citizenship. Whoa. Mamdani also said that Nazi Germany racist and anti-Semitic Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws. Moreover, the Nazi political project was shared by allies, and that political project was to turn Germany into a pure nation. When the Allies defeated the Nazis and went to Eastern Europe, they began to create pure nations to ethnically cleanse Eastern Europe of Germans, move them back into Germany. One crime doesn't wipe out another. Mamdani's book reveals a blatantly Marxist philosophy. There are two kinds of identities. There is the identity of the oppressor and the identity of the oppressed. He argues that the nation state is what prevents us from living together. This is because the majority precedes democracy. The tension between citizen and subject, or majority and minority, is an inherent consequence to colonialism. I argue that nationalism and colonialism are not two different things. We normally think of two different kinds of nationalism, good nationalism and bad nationalism. Good nationalism brought us together, and bad nationalism targeted our minorities, other minorities. The important thing is to realize that these two things happen at the same time. There are two sides of the coin, he stated. Yes. Yes, you want to know why? Because you can look at everything almost that way. There's good and evil. There's right and wrong. There's up and down. There's left and right. He didn't actually say anything. Look, I don't mean to be a jerk here, but really, he didn't actually say anything. He said, hey, there's nationalism. And within nationalism, there's people that have good nationalism and bad nationalism. Because if people are the ones that have the nationalism, people are good and evil. That's it. There's nothing revolutionary about this. In order to eliminate oppression, Mamdani argues that we need to dismantle colonial architecture, stating that the tribes must take charge and the tribes must be sovereign. I'll hand down. I have no idea what the hell this guy's talking about at this point. I really have no clue. This is way too early to be dealing with this shit. I'll concede that there's definitely inspiration that Hitler got from America, like 100%, but it was mostly from the Democrat Party. Maybe there's something here with this. Let me see. There's probably some sort of connection that is legitimate with that statement from Abraham Lincoln. I'm not discrediting it, but this is what they do. They kind of zoom in on one little specific part of history, and they kind of obfuscate the rest of it that has to do with the Democrat Party. So it seems as though he kind of twisted it a little bit and was making a really rough kind of connection to this from like a complex part of history and trying to weasel his way into it. So the claim that Adolf Hitler was directly inspired by Abraham Lincoln's policies towards Native Americans during the Civil War, specifically the reservation system, to conclude that genocide was feasible and to reject common citizenship is partially supported but oversimplified. Yeah, it sounds like it. While Hitler admired U.S. settler colonialism and racial exclusion policies, including the displacement of Native Americans, there's no definitive evidence typing his ideology specifically to Lincoln or the Civil War era. You want to know what's funny? Is I gave you an actual linkage to Hitler and the Democrat Party. That's what I did for you. But as far as I'm aware, it sounded weird. It smelled like doo-doo. That's a twist and turn right there. That's called pretzeling your way into something, folks. And people at Columbia are just drooling over, going, oh God, he's a professor, so he must know what he's talking about. Nowadays, if you're a professor or whatever, it don't mean shit. Everybody graduates high school. Everybody graduates college. Like, I have my master's. It doesn't mean shit. I took my master's degree was easier than my bachelor's degree. I was the top 5% of my graduating class at USC. Top 5, Phi Kappa Phi. Meaningless. Is one of the easiest things I've ever done. You just had to do a lot of reading, a lot of writing. I wrote an entire book. Anybody can, it's not difficult. None of this stuff is difficult. Oh, wow, you have a master's degree. You got a PhD. You teach at a university. It used to be a big deal before everybody started doing it. Don't get me down that. We got an education article coming up later. Well, you would think like, wow, people would really want to talk about Zohran Mamdani now, the socialist, the guy that wants to socialize your grocery store, government grocery stores. I guess that's not the case. Hakeem Jeffries really doesn't want to talk about Zohran Mamdani. He's pivoting when he's talking to MSN DNC host Ari Melber. Well, here we go. Let's have a little. We got a few clips here of this.
We have renewed our democracy. We have given our city permission to believe again. In our New York, the power belongs to the people.
That was 33-year-old Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, who shocked the political world with his victory in the New York Democratic primary for mayor. I'm joined now by House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Let's start with the big news, Leader Jeffries, out of your hometown. Mamdani won a big victory. Have you endorsed him yet?
I have not. We had a conversation on Wednesday morning where I congratulated him on the campaign that he ran, a campaign that clearly was relentlessly focused on the high cost of living in New York City and the economy. He outworked, he out-communicated, and he out-organized the opposition, and that's clearly why he was successful.
So what's holding you back from endorsing him right now?
Well, we don't really know each other well. Our districts don't overlap. I have never had a substantive conversation with him. And so that's the next step in terms of this process, to be able to sit down, which we agreed to do in central Brooklyn, discuss his vision for moving the city forward and addressing the issues that are important to the communities that I represent, a very diverse district that I represent in Brooklyn, including many African Americans, many Jewish Americans, many Caribbean Americans who are dealing with a lot of challenges in the city and want to make sure that the next mayor of the city of New York, whoever that may be, is prepared to tackle them.
Mamdani calls himself a Democratic Socialist. He proposed, obviously, big tax increases, free mass transit, free bus fares, government-run grocery stores. Is this the kind of progressive socialism that we're going to see as the future of the Democratic Party, or is this unique to New York City?
I think that one of the things we've been clear about from the very beginning as House Democrats is that we need to relentlessly focus on addressing the high cost of living in the United States of America. This country is far too expensive for working class Americans, for middle class Americans, for all those who aspire to be part of the middle class. Imagine a country where every single hardworking American taxpayer can afford to live the good life, work hard, play by the rules, have a good paying job, good health care, be able to afford a...
What do you see? I promise I will let him finish. We have this idea, and I don't know if it's because of social media or whatever, that we all need to live like the Kardashians. We all have a right to live like the Joneses. No, you don't. Everybody's idea of what is a good life, his words, not mine, is subjective. And because we want a certain lifestyle, the question is, are you willing to make the decisions and the sacrifices to have that lifestyle that you want? And it's not a wild question where we all have to face that question all the time. Everybody in this chat has to face that question. Retirement's an example. You guys are saying Timu Obama? That's hilarious. That is funny. That is awesome. Jeez. Well, I have not heard that before. Well done. We have the best chat. There you go. That's why I can't read the chat. You guys simmer down. I don't even know what the hell I was saying anymore. This guy, I totally lost my train of thought. That's freaking hilarious. I really did. I'll come back to it. I'll let him finish. Oh, a good life. We all have to face it. Is you have to decide what type of retirement life you want. And you have to start planning that years ahead, 30 years ahead. Do you want to be going on vacations everywhere? Do you want to cruise for the rest of your life? Or are you content with just staying at home? You kind of did what you wanted during your life and you're good with just kind of chilling. Everybody has to face this. What lifestyle do you want? And this idea that, well, people can't afford to live a good life. Sure you can. The question is that where can you live that good life? Maybe you can't afford to live in California. Okay. Well, guess what? There's a giant country called the United States that you can move anywhere around and go live there. That's going to be cheaper living for you, that you might be more prosperous in than you were where you were just living before. Because they change it up all the time and it's annoying me. Oh, well, what's your standard of living? I can't make it out here. Well, maybe it's the car payment that you have that's $800 a month. Also financing your phone, your TV. You got about 13 subscriptions to like different streaming services. You bought the best internet, which you don't need. You're also bought your car insurance is also through the roof as well. You're financing everything, but yet you went to college for lesbian dance theory. You're also living in an area that's about 5x of what you should be paying because you don't make enough money. When you start auditing these people's financials, what you realize is they're idiots when it comes to finance. And I've said this time and time again. I was a public accountant. I've gone through people's finances all the time. And that's why majority of Americans struggle, because they suck at finances. And because you're the one that's targeting them and they're the problem and not some nameless, faceless, shadowy figure out there, well, then all of a sudden they get upset. You want to know who does a great job at this, of auditing people's finances? If you want to get a glimpse of it, look at Caleb Hammer. Hold on a second. I'll come to this. I want you guys to see this guy's channel. Caleb Hammer is a guy that does audits, personalized audits. This is his channel right here. Caleb Hammer. If you haven't seen this, you're going to think, oh, this is just kind of like a one-off. Like, there's no way these people are like this. Like, majority of people aren't like this. Yes, they are. I just want to show you a little bit of what he does.
Racism, lady.
I didn't like how things were handled in that episode.
What?
Just like the way that you approached and handled like their situation. Like,
are you able to say anything of any relevance, or are you just going to say broad terms?
I'm just like letting you know that like that if you do that, that's not cool.
Any more criticisms not backed up by reality? Dude, you're bringing such dark energy to financial audit.
These people are nuts. Let me go to, I just want you to see a little bit of a glimpse. Normally we'll do this on like Dark MAGA, but I think it's important. Usually his intros are pretty good. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do this. Hopefully you guys are okay with this. Here we go.
And I'm 27. Things are, an average is, I would say 6,500.
Okay, that's not bad at all. Why are you purchasing on a card that is already almost maxed out?
I kind of been doing this dance with like credit cards where I don't want to spend the money that I have. Like, I feel like it makes more sense to, like, if I'm going out to eat or whatever, buying something from Amazon if I need, like a household need. Then I would rather do it from the credit card, pay off the credit card so I have more money.
What pay off the credit card? You're not paying off the credit card. You spent more than you paid off, and you're losing an additional $41.59 in interest. You're losing that because you're doing that. Do you know that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the interest sucks.
The interest sucks. It absolutely does. It is time to find a new dance partner instead of these credit cards.
So here's how the left thinks. And Republicans, just Americans in general, they think, well, that $41.50, it's not really that much. It's not that much money. It's not really that much. Really. Let's just look at that. If you were to invest that money, let's go to the chat. If you were to invest that $41, I lowballed it, over 35 years, how much money do you think that is? Just that $41 of interest that she's making. If she would have just invested that for 35 years, because I'm assuming she's probably like in her late 20s, early 30s. I could be wrong. But I'm assuming she's going to retire at 65, right? You add on 35 years to whatever age she's at. If she's in her late 20s, early 30s, it'd be roughly that. Just that interest alone, $214,000 is what she would have just on that amount alone. Well, it's just $41. I mean, what's the big deal? Then don't come to me later and bitch, moan, and complain when you don't have the lifestyle that you wanted because you didn't want to take the necessary precautions early on and other people did. But you want to live like other people who made the sacrifices. That's always the case, is you always want the easier route out while the one guy busted his ass for years, or gal, and you want their same standard of living, but you're not willing to do what those other people did.
Home, educate your children, go on vacation every now and then, and one day retire with grace and dignity. The good life, the American dream. That is not accessible to everyone. And so I think it will continue to be important for all of us on the Democratic side to address relentlessly the issue of the lack of affordability in this country. Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs haven't gone down, they're going up. In fact, the guy is crashing the economy in real time and posing.
Hold on a second. He's crashing the economy in real time? Really? Hold on a second. No, I'm just going off his words, you guys. I have to see this. I have to see it. This is news to me. Okay, hold on a second. He's crashing the economy in real time. Weird. So where did he take office at? Oh, right here. Gotcha. Huh, weird. It looks like it's up 250 points. That's weird. I thought he was crashing the economy. My 401k is doing better than ever. What? Weird. Crazy. That's so weird, you guys, because I was just told, I mean, we're up in the last 6 months, 7.4%. The last month alone, we're up almost 3.6. I don't know. I mean, the whole week, we're up 0.5%. I thought he was crashing the economy. Yeah, no, this is supposed to be like the Great Depression. That's what crashing means. Huh. Weird.
These reckless Trump tariffs that are going to increase costs by thousands of dollars a year, and he may even drive us toward a recession.
No pushback. No real time of like, hey, let's look at this. But I guarantee you, if this was a Republican or conservative out there, oh boy, they would have had the graph ready. You know, they would have pushed back, interrupted the guy a bunch of times. But because he's a Democrat and he's the, House Minority Leader, it's fine. We'll just kind of let him go. I really hope they vote for Mamdani because I'm really curious to just watch that unfold. I'm really curious. Mind you, Hakeem Jeffries is asked if he will embrace calls for his own party to defund ICE. Let's just see what he says. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, because Mamdani wants to get rid of the New York City Police Department. Would love to see that happen. I just want to see how it all unfolds. That's all. I don't live there, so it doesn't affect me. It's going to affect other people. If he gets in, you got to get out of New York. I mean, Dan Bongino's been saying get out of New York for years. You got to get out of there. Really. It's not a place you want your kids to be brought up in.
Some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Well, I definitely think that, we need aggressive oversight as it relates to the overly aggressive behavior that we've seen, from ICE, from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for.
Yeah.
Hold on. No. Hold on. I just want to see if he's right here again. We're just going to do this in real time.
President picking a fight on this, and to an extent, you see Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, a Democrat, and the California Governor Gavin Newsom pushing back. So what do voters see in terms of their perceptions of Republicans, the president, or Democrats, say Gavin Newsom, on this issue?
Yeah, the American electorate believe that the Democrats don't have a clue on the issue of immigration. I mean, you could just take it here. Closer to trust more in immigration, Democrats versus Republicans. Got 3 different polls for you across the board. They all tell the same story. Republicans lead on the issue of immigration. You see it here, CBS +6. You see it here, CNN +6. You see it here, Ipsos, even bigger, +19. No matter what poll you look at, no matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans. The American public is with Donald Trump. No matter which way you cut it, the American public is with the Republicans. The American public is with Donald Trump. The American public is with the Republicans. The American public is with Donald Trump, and to a much greater extent than they were in term number one. And it's not just on the broad issue of immigration, it's on the specifics as well, in which the American public is with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And that is why Donald Trump is eager to take on this fight and eager for those scenes out of Los Angeles.
So,
oh, no. Hold on. I'm just,
actually, in my view, voted for. Yeah. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for.
Weird. Because that's not what was stated.
Slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month, and there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times, Marquette 64%, CBS News 57%, ABC News with a slightly different question 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's a blunt question, which indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt
guys, what? I'm not sure if I heard him correctly.
Question, which I believe that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants? Do in fact want to deport all immigrants? Do in fact want to deport all immigrants? Do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally? There's
weird, Jeff.
Yeah. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after violent felons. But instead, they're going after law-abiding immigrant families. And in fact, in some cases, deporting American citizens and children, some with cancer. And you know, America is better than this. And that's the reality. In terms of what House Democrats stand for, we believe that in this country, you work hard and you play by the rules. You should be able to experience the American dream. You should be able to afford to live the good life.
What does that mean? Do you notice there's no follow-up? What does that mean to live the good life? I'm not trying to be an a-hole. I promise. I'm not saying life is easy. That's not what I'm saying. But nobody promised you an easy life. The American dream isn't supposed to be easy. I really want to put my head through drywall right now. Whenever you talk about this, and it comes to finances because you're criticizing people's decisions that they've made over the course of years, if not decades, it comes across as if you're attacking them, and in some way, shape, or form you are, because you're basically calling out their poor decision-making and how their poor decision-making and the sequence of decisions that they've made, not just one, not just two, but a sequence of decisions over the course of their life have either helped them or not helped them. When you call that out, all of a sudden you're an a-hole. You're a bad guy. Oh, you're a terrible person. No, I'm just calling it out because I'm tired of you blaming everybody else for things being more expensive. Isn't it wild that the same guy that you just saw on there is saying things are more expensive, but it's his own party that's constantly calling for an increase in minimum wage? Granted, I believe it was Tom Cotton of the Republican Party that most recently called for an increase in the minimum wage. But if you increase minimum wage, what does that cause everything else to go up in? Price. So if everything else is going to go up in price because you just increase the price of labor upon everybody, well, then doesn't that hurt the people that are already struggling because now something's going to be more expensive because people are going to want the same profit margins as they had before because they're held accountable to the stockholders? I almost said stakeholders. There is a difference. It's just not, none of this is complicated. Like, in my opinion, none of this is complicated.
Came out of nowhere with less money, less fame, beat The Democratic establishment beat Mario Cuomo. I should say Andrew Cuomo, son of Mario Cuomo, known in New York. Is that a good thing for the Democratic Party?
Well, he ran a tremendous race. He outworked the opposition. He out-communicated the opposition. He out-organized the opposition. And I think one of the things that was key about what he was able to do is that he ran directly at the issue of affordability. Across every age demographic, it's the number one issue in the city of New York. Now, he articulated a very provocative platform in that regard. I look forward to sitting down and talking to him about his plans to actually implement that platform to deal with some of the challenges that the communities that I face are dealing with in terms of gentrification and displacement, and a whole host of other issues that I would normally talk about with any Democratic nominee, and certainly we'll talk about with our particular Democratic nominee in the context of the mayoral race. I think one of the things that we'll continue to try to do at the national level is to lean in aggressively to Donald Trump's failure to address the high cost of living. He promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down. It's going up. Inflation is on the way up. Life remains far too expensive for the American people.
I got to tell you,
Democrats want to do something about it.
Respectfully, I see the pivot. You know, you're good at this. That's how you got this job. But then I got to rephrase the question. You're not ready.
Again, I'm just calling this guy's bullshit in real time. Here's inflation. This is when Donald Trump took office. Just gonna point this out. Everybody see that? Is that there you go. There you go. Yep. Everybody see that right there? Weird. Isn't it remarkable how you could just call out this guy's bullshit in real time? People go, oh, but look at, but a graph go up. But Brad, graph go up. Graph go up real good. Look at graph go up 2.3, 2.4%. Inflation is always going to fluctuate. As long as you can keep it between 1 to 3%, that's generally what we see. It's going to always fluctuate between 1 and 3% if everything's going correctly. Inflation doesn't always mean bad, by the way. It depends on what context you're talking about. Inflation is not always a negative thing. It's crazy how people just see inflation. Oh my God, what the hell? This is terrible. Inflation is not always bad. It's not. Well, Brad, can you give me an example of like how inflation wouldn't be bad? Inflation is just making something bigger. Ballooning, right? You're just making something bigger. When your economy inflates, depending on the context that you're using it in, could be a good thing because your economy got bigger. If I said, wow, that bag of money that you have right there just inflated, that means that it got bigger, meaning there's more money inside your bag. It depends on what context you're using it. This is not what it's gone down. Here it's gone up by 0.1%. It will always go up and down in this manner. It's gone down. Graph go down. Graph go down big time. Gee, who is this? Hold on a second. Who is this right? Whose administration was this? Jesus! Oh, it's Joe Biden's. That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yet to say whether it's a good thing. You want to meet with him. You want to kick the tires. At this juncture, you're not ready to say that this turnout, this energy that he tapped in New York is good for the party yet.
Oh, no, listen. I mean, I think that when you can increase the electorate, particularly as it relates to parts of the electorate that came out in significant numbers, which
hopefully you guys are okay with calling out this guy's BS in real time because there's more here. There's more. We're going to move on. I want to find some other stuff here. Well, speaking of Joe Biden, he's back in the news. Oh, Joey, you freaking dork. Here he is. It's now clear there was a conspiracy. It's now clear? It's always been clear there was a cover-up. Are you kidding me? We've been calling this out for 4 years. I said there's actually thumbnails of this. Joe Biden's cognitive decline was the greatest cover-up in American history. Former President Joe Biden's physician, Kevin O'Connor, and I got more on this, by the way. This is not the only article I have on Kevin O'Connor, pleaded the fifth during a closed-door deposition before Congress on Wednesday. His own physician was like, I can't talk about this. Does that not tell you everything you need to know? I mean, we don't need a physician to tell us that this dude was fucking gone. Joe's brain was mush, man. When he would tilt his head, you'd hear the brain matter swishing around in his head because it was so mushy. You know what I'm talking about? You'd hear it like this. This is what it sounded like. You guys can you hear that? Oh, you can't. I don't think you can hear it. All right, well, whatever. Here's what it sounded like. That's Joey's head. That's Joey's head when he gets gassy. The interview part of the investigation into Biden's mental state and whether he authorized the use of auto pen signatures for major executive actions lasted roughly an hour on Capitol Hill. In a statement, O'Connor's attorney told House Oversight Chairman James Comer and other members of the Oversight Committee that their client would not violate his oath of confidentiality to his patients, including Biden. They also insisted that a pending Department of Justice criminal investigation left O'Connor no choice but to assert his Fifth Amendment rights. Hey, dude, was the guy that you were the physician over, was he cognitively there? I don't know. Hold on a second. I got more for you. I got a clip here of it. Now, it's kind of a long clip, but we're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to just talk about it really quick, and then I'll show you just little bits and pieces to prove that, there is a clip. So Biden doctor respectfully declines to answer questions and cover up deposition. He wouldn't even answer in a deposition. Joe Biden's White House physician repeatedly declined to answer questions during a deposition before Congress on Wednesday. Republicans who led the House Oversight Committee released a video of the closed-door interview showing O'Connor declaring his refusal to cooperate with when pressed on whether he was even told to lie about Biden's health. He wouldn't even answer that. Look, when pressed on whether he was ever told to lie about Biden's health, he wouldn't even answer that. That has nothing to do with the guy's health condition. You could just say, I should say it has nothing to do with his health condition, but it has nothing to do with giving the specifics of his health condition. And if he ever believed Biden was unfit to execute his duties as president.
Good morning, everyone. This is a deposition of Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Comer requested a voluntary. Will counsel please identify one staff counsel per side asking the questions during each information that would make your response truthful, a deliberate failure to disclose information. Dr. O'Connor, were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer. I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
Let the record reflect that Dr. O'Connor has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Dr. O'Connor, please be very...
This dude was part of one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. Do you think when he went to med school, he would find himself in the history books of the greatest cover-up that we've ever seen? Maybe in human existence? Whenever a Democrat starts saying anything negative about Donald Trump, just bring up the fact that one, they voted for Joe Biden, and two, you don't even have to look up. You just know it's going to be true. You don't even have to go through their entire social media. You could just bring up the fact that there's not even a peep of Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the terrible things. He couldn't even say a sentence coherently over the last 4 years. Meaning, let me just, it's actually longer than that, by the way, because technically we're still going. They had almost 1,500 days, 1,460 days to say anything. They had 1,460 opportunities to say anything about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, that the guy's not all there. He's drooling. He has Velcro shoes. This guy can't walk across grass correctly. I always bring up, do you guys remember this report? His own White House aides, I think Axios reported on this years ago. His own White House aides were absolutely terrified that he was going to trip over a camera cable and off himself by accident. That's a true story, by the way. Well, Trump rips Brazil over censorship. Witch hunt then says country will face a 50% tariff. President Donald Trump took a sledgehammer to Brazil on Wednesday, calling out the leftist government for its censorship of U.S. social media and its witch hunt targeting former conservative President Jair Bolsonaro. In a letter to the Brazilian president, one of the many letters Trump has sent to countries around the world this week, the U.S. president deviated from the typical message announcing tariff rates to blast Brazil's insidious attacks on free elections and the fundamental free speech right of Americans. Is there a clip? No clip. All right, let's just see this really quick. Dear Mr. President, Trump began a letter. I knew and dealt with former President Jair Bolsonaro. I can't do it. I can't do it. And respected him greatly, as did most other leaders of countries. The way Brazil has treated the former president, a highly respected leader throughout the world during his term, including by the United States, is an international disgrace. This trial should not be taking place. It is a witch hunt that should end immediately. Well, I don't think they're really going to care all that much of what Trump has to say. But, well, they got hit with a 50% tariff. So there's some news. I'm not exactly sure if that's going to affect us all that much. It might for whoever's doing business with Brazil. Now, speaking of doing business with people, the EU said it was working on sealing a trade deal with the United States by the end of this month. U.S. President Donald Trump promised that he would deliver further tariff notices on unnamed countries on Wednesday. Trump broadened out a trade war that has cast a shadow over the global economic outlook when he said on Tuesday he would impose a 50% tariff on imported copper and soon introduce long-threatened levies on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, which is going to be a big increase in our purchases because these semiconductors are in everything. Now, remember, from my understanding, as long as you're producing or manufacturing in the United States and also producing in said whatever country, you're not being hit with these tariffs. So everybody keeps forgetting that point. And I think it's important to always include that, because just because he's doing a blanket tariff might not even affecting you. Like, I'm just going to build a case here. Let's say Samsung produces a lot of foreign goods, right? And you are a big purchaser of Samsung. Like, let's just say you have Samsung TV, Samsung sound system, Samsung phone. You're like, I'm a Samsung groupie. Well, if they're producing Samsung products here in the United States, then guess what? You're not going to be hit with that tariff. So there's a tariff on them, but you're not going to be hit with it because they produce it here. And it's a little bit disingenuous if they say the tariff's on them. It's just on their country. Trump said late on Tuesday that a minimum of 7 tariff notices would be released on Wednesday morning and more in the afternoon. He gave no further details on his Truth Social. So the threat came a day after he pressured 14 trading partners, including the powerhouse suppliers South Korea and Japan, with tariffs imposing 25%. So there's that for you. At least he ain't messing around. He's putting it in him. He's putting it in him. Now, regarding Japan and South Korea, Scott Bessent skipped South Africa G20 meeting again to travel to Japan instead. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will skip a group of 20 finance officials meeting in South Africa next week. Sources familiar with his plans told Reuters, but he would attend the World Expo 2025 in Japan. Bessent's decision to make the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting marks the second time this year he has opted against attending a G20 meeting in South Africa, which is serving as the group's president this year. Well, I don't see why he needs to be there if other people are there. The guy's out there making trade deals with it'd be different if the guy's sitting in Washington behind his desk, not doing anything. The guy's out there working. So I'm not saying this article is hounding him. I'm not saying anybody's actually hounding him. But if they are, the guy's out there working. So maybe he's going to Japan to talk to them about, hey, let's get a trade deal going, or else you guys are going to be slapped with something big here. There you go. That's what's going on with that. How long have we been streaming for? Over an hour already. Good to see you guys. Hit that like button if you can. Greatly appreciate any support necessary. It's all necessary. Let's do one or two more and then we'll be done and we'll kind of fill in everything else for Dark Maga. There will be Dark Maga tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's open to everybody. So we'll be on Twitter or X. We'll be on YouTube, ScrewTube. We'll be on Rumble. We'll be on, that's it, because I'm not going live anymore on TikTok because I keep getting suspended. We were suspended for 2 weeks on TikTok, man. Really, really crazy stuff. I'm trying to find a good article to go over. All right, this is one that you guys were talking about yesterday that I didn't cover. Far left activist in LA arrested for targeting immigration enforcement vehicles with tire spikes. They made their own tire spikes and are now going after vehicles. Guess who has to pay for all this, by the way? The taxpayer does. By the way, they should be the ones that are paying for this. If they're going to court, which it seems like they are, the court should be charging them for this tire and the repairs of this vehicle. They should be the ones paying for this. By the way, if reporters did their jobs nowadays, we would have answers to all this stuff. Like, what was the investigation? What was the follow-up? What happened to these people? How long did they go to jail for? Did they have to pay for the repairs? Did they have to pay for the law enforcement's time that was offset because of this, that they couldn't be on the streets rounding up criminals? Did they have to pay for that? I want them to pay for the officer's salary. I want them to, or the agents. I want them to pay for the repairs. And I want them to pay for the overtime. I want them to pay for all of that so that I don't have to pay for it because of their actions. Border Patrol agents arrested 4 people on Tuesday suspected of planting tire spikes in front of vehicles used by federal immigration enforcement agents in Los Angeles in an attempt to impede their mission. They were arrested for interfering with federal agents conducting immigration enforcement operations. They are facing felony charges for placing homemade tire spikes to disable law enforcement vehicles. Anyone who interferes with our lawful mission will be arrested. The 4 were taken into custody after federal agents conducted a raid in a Home Depot parking lot. Jesus. Oh my God. I'm laughing because it's such a stereotype. In LA's Van Nuys neighborhood. So here they are. Here's the people. Let's see them. Let's see these. Look at this guy. Has a mask, of course. Just if you just had to guess, you think this guy's Democrat or Republican. If you just had, you're throwing your money in the hat, right? You're making a wager. You're in Vegas, having a little bit of fun with the kids. Getting the old lady out of the house. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah. Love it. 2 of those arrested were identified as day labor advocates with a nonprofit called the Instituto de Acción Popular del Sur, California. The organization claims that the 2 individuals arrested were observing the federal law enforcement agents and have no evidence connecting them to the spikes. The use of tire spikes against federal agents is one of the latest attempts by leftist agitators in Los Angeles to impede immigration enforcement. Well, at least they're being arrested now. That's always a good thing. So it's fine. It's nice. How about we arrest them though when they go after, I don't know, they assault our federal agents. How about we arrest them that way? That'd be cool. So remember these people, 11 far left extremists were charged in a major terror plot to delete ICE agents in Texas. So we showed that the other day. That's for you guys. Okay. That's for all of you guys. I want to show you this as well. What you're going to be seeing is a third world country here in a moment. And this is a pretty crazy clip. So this is, I forgot what country this is, but it's pretty wild nonetheless. Let's play it.
Disturbing to see so many encampments all throughout the city, not just in one particular neighborhood, but all throughout Oakland.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Oh, it's actually California. Oh, my bad.
Like the quality of life here is non-existent. Disease is rampant, and this is what used to be a children's playground. This is Fallout 3.
Not necessarily child-proof anymore. So you guys understand, I've been to so many places at this point, I'm starting to lose my emotional sensitivity to what's going on here a little bit. I don't really know how to react anymore because at this point it's all starting to blend.
I mean, this car is floating right now.
Whoa.
What's going on?
That is crazy. All right, let's take a look at this. You guys are about to have your mind blown. Hey, what up?
Extremely disturbing.
Now, just going to go to this. think there's another angle of it. Right here. That's the angle I wanted. Now, this was a while ago, maybe a few weeks ago, we talked about this last. Remember how I said in Los Angeles they do this as well? It's Oakland, but yeah. Looks like LA. Remember how I said there was people parked like this? And I said if I were to park in front of these people, I would be ticketed and possibly towed for parking violation. Do you understand what I'm talking about now when I say this stuff that I'm not just pulling out of my ass with you guys? You guys have been around long enough. You know I don't do that. You guys know I don't bullshit you. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Remember how I said they have stuff spilling over on the sidewalks. I've never seen this video in my life other than just the other day when I reposted it. Like yesterday, I think it was. I'm not lying to you guys when I say stuff like they're not being towed. They're not being ticketed. Nothing's happening to these people. But if you parked right here, right on the ass of this RV with your car, and I'm as serious as a heart attack, if you were to do it, your fucking car would be towed so quick it'd make your head spin. These guys, though, completely fine. Look at this. Look at this playground. You're paying for all this, by the way. Look at the trash. Explain to me why there's a refrigerator out here and a fucking washer machine. But these guys better be careful walking through here. By the way, there has to be syringes and needles, and the smell has to just be baked onto him. As somebody that's been to LA many of times, and I've shared with you stories, it sticks to your skin and body. It feels like suntan lotion, if you want like an analogy of what it would feel like, the stickiness of it. You all know what I'm talking about when you put suntan lotion, you've been sweating and it mixes with your sweat and it's like sticky. Oh, God, dude, I'm going to throw up. That's Democrat Rand, man. That's Democrat Rand for you. You know what? Actually, let me see if I can pull this up really quickly. I want to see if I can find that video that I was referring to earlier. Orange. Let me see if I can find it. Here's an example.
This is Trump, everything, and the sheriff lives next door. You do not want to get in trouble out here. This is Trump, everything.
Wow, that's quite a setup you got going on. Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to find, there's like an actual video between LA County and Orange County. And it's like here we go, this one.
I forgot my mask. What do you mean? Dude, my mask to be let inside the store. This is Orange County, you don't have to. We're better than that. For real? We actually have choices here. This shit.
This guy makes a lot of videos. This is the one I wanted. This is the one I was wanting to show you. Here we go. Buckle up. It's so true.
I feel like a whole bunch of demons just left the area. Is this Orange County? This is nice. Wow. This is nice. This is like Beverly Hills, but like everywhere. Even the Taco Bell's nice. Okay, this is not LA County. Wow. Is that a fountain? Wow. It's actually like really clean here. Wow, this is really clean. Not even a speck of homeless people. Wow. I feel like a whole bunch of demons just...
I want to point out, this is really what I live in Orange County. I live here. I want to point out that you notice there's no graffiti, there's no trash, it's swept up, it's clean. By the way, even if this wasn't Orange County, like let's say he wasn't actually in Orange County or somewhere else, it looks a hell of a lot like you would fool me. It doesn't smell. The air's crisp. Let's see what people said in the comment section. Nightlife is non-existent. There's a ton. Have you ever been to Newport? Like, what is There's Laguna Beach. There's Newport. There's the nightlife in Huntington Beach is popping off down there on Main Street. What the hell is this person talking about? The nightlife is non-existent in Orange County? What? Tell me you've never been to Orange County without telling me you've never been to Orange County nightlife, I guess. When I first moved there, I was wondering why there wasn't a single piece of trash and why everything closed so early. Nobody walking at night, no sirens, but also slapped by racism. Crazy. Orange County is very nice. Of course it is. Welcome to Orange County. Apparently y'all aren't in Santa Ana, Anaheim, or Westminster. Well, Santa Ana is ran by Democrats, actually. And I believe so is Anaheim. And maybe Westminster. I'm not really sure on that. Westminster's really not that bad. I grew up in Westminster, by the way. I went to school in Westminster. So I'm not really sure. But like I said, you got to look at the holistic view. But Santa Ana is getting a little bit better. It's a little rough. Aliso Viejo, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. All right. Danielle says, Brad, I live in LA County and far east. It's nice over here. Yeah, look, there's always going to be nice places everywhere. But again, I'm not looking at like, wow, you found a speck of dust somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, if you were to walk into somebody's house and their whole house is clean, but there's like that one little area that they missed. You know what I mean? And you go, your house is shit. Look at this mess. And like you found like a smudge on the side of like the wall. Their whole house is clean though. I mean, everything's clean. And you found that one little speck of dust. Like, fuck. That's Orange County for you. Orange County's all clean. But then you got Santa Ana. And you're like, look at that fucking thing. You're sick. That's how people think. Guys, how often do I share that with you? That's how people think all the time. It's crazy. And by the way, the reason why it grinds my gears and pushes my buttons is because I teach statistics. And whenever somebody's talking to me, they're always talking about outliers in terms of that being the representation of what the data is talking about. I talk about this all the time. When I go, hey, your average was, let's say 78% on the exam. They'll go, oh, okay. So everybody's either getting greater than a C or slightly less than a C, correct? If I rephrase it and I go, yeah, but that guy over there failed. Let's just say I did that, which happens. I don't call anybody out. But I say, yeah, some people failed, which is true. There's always going to be people that failed. I kid you not, everybody goes, oh my God, everybody failed Mr. Roberts' exam. Even after, this is a statistics class, by the way, I shit you not. Even after I told them the average was 78, and they go, well, did people fail? Yeah, some people failed. Oh my God, everybody failed this exam. It's the craziest thing. It's like those conversations happen all the time, even outside. It can be finance, it could be whatever. For some ungodly reason, people love to always go with the outlier as the representation of what the data is talking about. I don't understand it. I never will. It's odd to me. But that's how people function. Majority of people function that way. How does it get brought up in politics? It gets brought up in politics where you'll be talking about something and you'll be talking about the data set over here. And then this person that has an experience in their life is that outlier. And they'll say, well, you're saying that this never happens? This actually happened to me yesterday, believe it or not. And you go, no, I'm not saying it never happens. I'm just saying that it's rare to occur. It does happen. And that we should focus on the majority of it actually happening versus that little bit over there. I'll give you another example and actually correlate it to something that's brought up in politics. Abortions. The vast majority of abortions, like 99% of abortions, are taking place out of the form of an inconvenience. You didn't want to have a kid. You wanted to get laid, you couldn't close your legs, or you let the guy blow his load in you, so now you have a baby. That's how babies are made. So you go get abortion because it's inconvenient, you didn't want to have a kid. The 1% is what they always focus on. And it's actually less than 1%. It's 0.5% that they focus on. Well, what about incest? What about the rapey? Which is evil, heinous, terrible, wrong, absolutely atrocious. Everybody agrees. But they'll focus on that 0.5%. Rather than looking at what's been going on for the 99.5%, The conversation is surrounded by that speck of dust. Fucking A, can you believe it? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. That's exactly how the arguments always go. Fuck the camel standing right in front of you. I want to focus on the gnat. I just spit everywhere. Yes, that is a biblical reference. Jesus said, why are you focusing on the Why are you focusing on the gnat when you have a camel standing right in front of you? I mean, he got picked apart in his teachings by the Pharisees because of all that. They're like, well, you said this, and then you said this, you said that. He's like, you're so focused on this minutia that doesn't even make any sense that you're missing the bigger picture. It's kind of like a collage. I know I'm giving different analogies, but that's what you do when you teach, by the way, so you can reach a broader audience. You give different examples. So you might have understood what I said 5 minutes ago, but some people are still trying to like, what the fuck is he talking about? I don't understand this. You have a collage, and the collage is made up of 1,000 pictures, and you're this close to the picture itself. And you would go, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. That's because you're close to it. And you're like, I see a guy in a family photo. And then you zoom out and you go, holy shit, it's Abraham Lincoln. It's a collage of 1,000 photos of Abraham Lincoln. Get in here, Peggy. Holy shit. Because you zoomed out. You didn't have your face in the shit. You got to see what was actually going on holistically, a bird's eye view, which is a great starting point. And when you have a bird's eye view of what the fuck you're looking at, then you could zoom into the nose. Then you could zoom into the eyeball. Then you could zoom in everywhere else. You're welcome for that analogy. That's a damn good analogy. What's your reasoning for being pro-life? You shouldn't kill innocent people. Here we go. You're damn right, Danielle. Here we go. By the way, I was pro-choice the majority of my life. All the way up until like 28 years old, I was pro-choice. I'm 36 now, so I've technically been pro-life for what, 8 years? And you want to know the difference? Do you want to know what got me there? Acknowledging the fact that it's a life. And by the way, I can concede then. Let's just concede part of the argument. I will give, this is what you always do, right? But then it's always disingenuous conversation. Let's just have fun here for a second, the hypothetical. The hypothetical is, let's concede that 1%. Let's give the left that 1% just for hypothetical reasons. And let's say anybody that's had an atrocious crime committed against them, meaning the rapies, and the incest stuff, let's give them that. Just for the sake of argument, because I already know where this goes, by the way. I already know what the end conclusion is. I already know their answer. Let's concede that 1%. We'll give you that 1% of abortions. Those people that had incest and had rapies against them, for the sake of argument, you do not have to carry that baby to term. You do not have to do that. You can have your abortion. Let's give them that 1%. You cannot have an abortion for anything else. We'll do the incest, the rapies, and the mother's life's at risk. The other 99% you cannot do. Watch what happens in that argument. You can't do it. No, they need that. They need, you can't tell a woman what to do with their body. It always switches to that. So even if you concede and give them what they want, right? Even if you give them what they want, that 1% that they want to reference the entire conversation about, even though the vast majority is an inconvenience. By the way, there's an entire chapter on abortions in my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. And if you want to go and get knowledge based on that from somebody that was pro-choice their entire life, I take you back to Egyptian time where abortions were happening. I take you back thousands of years in history about abortions. And I take you up to Griswold v. Connecticut. I take you through all of that with the emanations and the penumbras, all that stuff. So, like I said, it's not about these people being pro-choice or whatever. Is that they want that right to delete a human life. It has nothing to do with that rapey or the incest or the mother's life. That has nothing to do with the argument for them. That's why it's always best just to get to it. Fine, I'll concede that. You get to have those. You get to have those. Let's talk about the 99% then. Okay, cool. What you will see is almost 100% of the time, they also want that 99%. Which means, then why'd you bring up the 1% in the first place? I gave you that. You got what you wanted. Fine. Okay, you have that. The moment you do that, what you will see is, at the end of the day, they just want to kill people. That's all it is. You know how I know that? Well, they had an RV outside the DNC that was deleting babies left and right. Is what it is. So that's why I'm pro-life. I don't think you should delete a child. There you go. That's it. All right. Well, that's fun. I thought that person would say more, but maybe they're just curious. We'll be back here at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Dark MAGA. We'll be going over long form video. I didn't even get over half my content, by the way. We could probably go on for another 2 hours. I'm not even kidding. I think it hurts your argument. The only reason it would hurt my argument, that 1%, is the fact that if you're pro-life, then you would obviously want the life of that baby from the person that was having that heinous evil crime committed against them come to term and give birth to it. That was where the argument would go, which is why a lot of the people that talk about the 1%, that's where there would be a flaw in their argument. But that's not the argument that I was making. The argument that I was making was the fact that you are utilizing that outlier, which isn't even an influential point, by the way, rather than talking about the 99%. You can't get stuff done if you're talking about 1% and you don't want to acknowledge the 99%. So it doesn't actually hurt my argument, only in the sense of if you were to hone in on, well, if you think it's a life and you shouldn't terminate a life, then why would you terminate the life of somebody that had something heinous committed against them when it's an innocent life and that innocent life never did anything? So wouldn't it be linear logic to let that life actually come to fruition and live out a life in some way, shape, or form? The answer would be yes. That would be the linear logic. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring, and you can see how people can't follow here. What I'm referring to is the fact that if we were to concede, it's a hypothetical, if we were to concede, fine, you get what you want because the pro-choice want the abortions. If you want that 1%, the point I'm making is even if we gave you what you wanted, you still want that 99%. So the whole point of it is you got what you wanted, but the real point is it was never about that 1%. You just want to delete babies whenever the fuck you want. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's really what it is. Am I wrong? Because if it was about that 1% and you got what you wanted, then there would be no conversation about the 99%. You know what I mean? There would. Why do you say, okay, that's fine? Yeah, that's fine. Then that, if somebody was being honest, let's just say somebody's being genuine, like they're actually in good faith, which most people aren't, which is why I think debates are meaningless. I'm good faith. Let's just say I gave you that 1%. Like, there's an argument for that. That's fine. There should be, limitations on that. Absolutely. Like, coming to terms with it. You shouldn't be able to chop up a baby that's freaking fully formed. That's insane. But they don't want to say, okay, well, fine. You gave us that 1%. I think if it's an inconvenience, you shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion. They won't say, you won't ever hear that from a person's mouth that is pro-choice. And again, I was pro-choice the vast majority of my life. Yeah, he's coming from good faith. Thank you for clarifying. Gotcha. Hypothetically. Yeah. Now I'm saying both sides. Now as somebody that's, I guess you could say fairly new to pro-life, I personally still struggle because when you have empathy and you have that 1% happen, it's very tough for me to come to the conclusion that somebody should have that kid that's had something terrible happen to them. It's a very hard thing to come to terms with. So as somebody that was pro-choice, even my heart still to this day is always tugging at, I think you should allow them to terminate that 1% and that other 99% shouldn't. No, I'm not okay with a certain time frame. No. I used to have no time frame. When I was pro-choice, it didn't matter when. And that came out of ignorance. That wasn't like, if I would have actually sat down and really thought about it at a younger age, I would have said, oh, well, I don't think a baby should be chopped up. Look, I think if you're going to get an abortion, and let's just say it wasn't like Plan B or something like that, or if it wasn't like super early on, I think the mom should have to have a part of it. I think if you're going to get an abortion and the thing's actually formed, I'm not saying like has a head of hair. I'm talking like you could tell like it's a human being, right? It's something like this. I think when this comes out, you as the parent should have to take part in cutting it up. Because I definitely think there's a point where an abortion 100% is unacceptable, but I haven't been convinced of at conception yet. And that's the grips that you have to come with. And I could tell you're actually coming from good faith, is the idea of when was life or is life formed would be at conception. I mean, that's where the disagreement's at. Is it a life? Is it not a life? And that's why I think you should read the book Trojan Horse. The last chapter is about abortion. And that's the conversation that from a pro-choice to a pro-life is I walk you through of how early on can we tell that there's a heartbeat? How early on does the brain form? How early on does the nervous system actually formulate so that it can feel pain? So as I mentioned, though, even if it's this big, when this comes out, I think if you're going to get an abortion and it's dead, the mother should take part in having to commit that crime with the doctor. You shouldn't have to pass on that heinous crime on to somebody else. You should take part in it. And I'd be curious as to how many people would actually go through with an abortion. Those that have it come to this term or even less than that would actually take part in chopping up a human being. Even if you're sucking it out through the tube after it's already been chopped up, have the person that's having the procedure done against them, if it's out of convenience, they should take part in the responsibility of terminating that individual. So I think you should have to watch a video of what actually happens in an abortion. I think that you should be as involved in it as you could possibly be. And that if you're okay with chopping up a baby that's this size or a little bit smaller or whatever, I'm just giving context. I understand majority is Plan B or majority is early on. I fully understand that. I fully get that. What I'm saying, though, is if you're okay with that, you should take part in it then. What makes it life, I guess, how is two cells coming together different from two independent cells? Right. Now, this is, I want to get off here, but, well, that's the idea, right? You can go down that argument. Well, we're looking for life on Mars. And if we can find a single cell organism on life, well, isn't that life within itself? The idea is, when does it become a human life? When does it start forming its own DNA? That formation of a human life starts at conception. You have your own DNA. You're your own individual at that point. It's not, I'm not trying to, as you can hopefully see, I'm not trying to screw with you. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's just, that's where I was at as somebody that's pro-choice, was when I had to come to terms, when did it become a human life? It came to human life when it got its own DNA. When the sperm and the egg meet, that's a human life. From there on, it's not a human life. Somebody can make the case that maybe a sperm is a human life since it's carrying the information, but both sides, but you understand what I mean. So it's just your idea of when you think it's a human life. That's really all it is. And here's the thing. As somebody that's pro-choice, or somebody that was pro-choice, is, again, as I talk about a lot, it's very easy to turn your head away from something so that you don't have to face the reality and the responsibility of what you did. That's really all it is because if you have to face the fact that you murdered a human being, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. And that's not an easy thing to live with. And so it's a lot easier to either pretend that it's not a human life or pass that responsibility on to somebody else. And that's what we do in our culture, is we always pass the responsibility of, when I did something wrong, it's somebody else's fault or it never happened in the first place. Abortion. I got laid one night because I wanted to have fun. I had a baby. I'm not ready to have a baby. I'm not ready for this. So I'm going to either pretend it's not a human life or it is a human life, and I'm going to pass the responsibility on somebody else to terminate that life for me because I'm not ready yet. That's all it comes down to. But nobody wants to have that genuine conversation that, look, you just think it's an inconvenience. Studies have been done. The majority of abortions are inconvenience. Even if, like I said, you were to give somebody that 1%, fine. We'll concede that. We'll give you what you want. Then then now we can talk about that 99%. That 99%, there's no reason to bring up that 1% because you already got what you wanted. Terminate it whenever you want. Whenever you want. We'll just give it to you. I don't think you should, but I'm going to give it to you. The 99%, let's focus on that. They won't do it. And that's disingenuous in my opinion. That's not somebody I want to have a conversation with, is because at that moment in time, you don't want to actually have the conversation that it's an inconvenience. And then if you want to have that conversation about the 99%, the question is that when should you terminate it? So anyways, that's where we're at. Appreciate the conversation. I'm not super knowledgeable of like, well, you know, when the embryo meets the egg and well, there's a spark of life that happens immediately. This is something, and this is why I went back all the way to Egyptian time, was I wanted to see what other cultures said and what they thought about in terms of the formation of what a human life was. And what in the book, this is what I really do. Here, let me actually pull up the book for you. So if you wanted to buy it, you can. You don't have to read like the other parts. A cheap book. So not only do I take you that, but I actually take you through the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church was actually wishy-washy on this early on. So even the church itself had to come to terms with when did life actually start, which is what we all deal with on a personal level. When does life start? That's the point. When does this all take place? And the foster care system especially. I wish they made adoption a bit easier. Adoption is such a pain. Yeah, I mean, but kind of shouldn't it be a pain to make sure that somebody gets into the right home with the right family? Shouldn't there be at least a little bit of a struggle? I mean, if you think about how much of a struggle pregnancy is, you know, I'm getting a human being and making sure in the right home should be a little bit of a struggle as well. I'm not saying it should be dramatically hard, but I think it should be a little bit of work. You're taking in a human being for the rest of their life and giving them a lovely life, hopefully, and an opportunity to live a great life. So, but anyways, all right. Well, I'm gonna get out of here. I got stuff to do, as do all of you. You guys got work. Appreciate the conversation. That was nice. If you're not subscribed, Kat, you should. LLC, you should subscribe to our channel. It was cool talking with you. With that being said, pray for this country. Pray for Donald Trump. Pray for world peace. And we'll see you. KT, I haven't seen you in a while, KT. I believe in pro-life and you make a perfect sense. I appreciate that. Thank you. KT, I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to see you. Hell yeah. Awesome. All right. Take care, folks. I'll see you later today. Peace.